YouTube. How are you doing? It is MsChronicChronicles, and this is officially Vlogmas, the first day of December. And in the YouTube community, if you're not familiar, let me make you acquainted. There's this lovely thing is make a lot of vlogs, do a lot of videos, 31 days in the month of December. I have been on YouTube now 10 years. It was time to make a series like this. Especially being my age, I think I have a lot of wisdom. I'm going to spice it up a bit though. It's going to be sort of like a teeny tiny little tiny vlog, like a cracker of a vlog. And the rest will be a story time for 31 days. So what does that mean? You get 31 stories from MsChronicChronicles, which, even if they're short, even if they're long, who knows? I'm sure some of these are going to get really long in several parts. But maybe I'll make that on my new channel. But here on this channel, I wanted to start off and just say welcome. If you're a new subscriber, if you're an old returning subscriber, thank you for joining. So in today's Vlogmas, that's basically, we're going to spice it up a bit. It's a token talk style. I'm not sure what the topic's going to be. Somewhere here. So stay tuned. I hope you enjoy this and comment below, like the video, and if you're so endearing, subscribe. Here we go. So here is number 1. This should get interesting. So how are all you guys doing? You hanging in there? It's been a crazy year. It's not over. We have 31 days, 30 days to go. And truthfully, honestly, with all my heart, hope you all are safe out there. And hopefully your Christmas, New Year's will be exactly what you want. Safe and healthy, all of us. And obviously, your loved ones and family. Hopefully you're able to stay in contact or near. But without further ado, not to make it somber, this will be an interesting video from all the videos I've ever put out there. And mostly because I think it will be a lot of fun. I want to do more story times. I feel like they're a lot of fun in general. Why not do it? Let's do it. Let's just do it. So ultimately, I've come to a point where I feel like it's time to share a bit more about myself. So there are a lot of subjects that I have been putting in this nice little thick book here, right here, that I plan to share with all of you lovely friends out there, and new subscribers likewise. So if you enjoy any of the series and topics I talk about, hopefully you will stick around for the next parts. Tomorrow and the following days, I'm going to do these off the cuff, so they're not going to be super planned, but maybe a little bit brainstorming in between, which I don't think is a problem. It's a great thing. So, in general, we are set up with a ring light. I do have my earpiece. I'm sorry, the sound is shit, so we're not going to do that. So, it is what it is, and I hope you're enjoying the content that I put here on my channel. Again, time limits and topics are damn off the cuff. So, I hope you say hello in the comments below. So this is probably going to be a hard one because I have it all planned out the best I can, but let me think here. Okay, my dear friends, so today's lovely story time, I think, is going to be a mashup of my thoughts and a few stories of sorts from living in the great state of Colorado. Yes. Cheers. So, I'm going to talk about the good and the interesting and some of the very strange things that happened from the early days of my childhood to the now 2020s and the pandemic. And what does it look like to be here as a Coloradian? I think it would be a good chat. And I would love to hear from your guys' perspective, where you're at, what's similar, what's not. Do we have it better? Do you have it better? How's your toilet paper stashes going? I hear it's declining very rapidly. So, get some popcorn, get some coffee, and get some meds. We're going to smoke real fast. Because of YouTube's policy all the time changing, please partake in your buds and your bodes and your whatever you're doing. and let's sit down, let's chat about Colorado and all the interesting things I think, which I'm sure I'm going to leave out quite a bit, but they'll be good, bad, silly, and interesting. And I'm like I said, this will probably be parts of parts, but why not? Let's go there. So, and I'll probably bring up some characters and the characters that I plan to talk about in the future. So, get comfortable. So while I get this heated up, thought I would say hello to all you guys out there. How are you all doing during the pandemic? I'm going to smoke a concentrate right now, which I'm not exactly sure what the strand is at this point. It was given to me, thankfully. It's always nice to get medicine when you don't have to spend the money. So you gotta get your nail all red and hot. So, have you ever been to Colorado? I actually moved here initially when I was about 6 years old. So, the experiences that I share are personal and from my perspective, and I do have some witnesses that could vouch on some of the stories that I will be sharing in some of these story times for the next 31 days. But I thought it would be a really nice, let's sit down and get comfortable kind of conversation to talk about what it's like from like 1991. Wait, hold on. 93, I think it is, when we moved to Denver, Colorado, the metro, Lakewood area, to now living in western part of Colorado in 2020 and being my own mom now to my own child. What is it like? What is it like to have that full perspective, to see the legalization happen here, to even now see Trump be president, and how that was to be here in Colorado? Holy crap, we could talk about that for a long time. But what has it been like to see Colorado the way it was? Well, mind you, when I left Louisiana, where I was originally born and grew up most of my early childhood, which you'll hear my accent come in there, here and there, but when I grew up in Louisiana from 0 to 6 years old and moved to Lakewood, Colorado, in a blizzard, which we packed up everything and put it in a box, a large box. The rest of the items that were in Louisiana were left on the curb or sold in a garage sale, but that's another story, another day on Louisiana. I'll talk about that in the future. But I think it is relevant to have these conversations about states I've lived in and my personal opinion, because damn, through the pandemic, you can't deny that's like seriously something we're all kind of going through, is like this retrospective of when can we go visit these places we can live in normalcy. It bothers me to walk around ninjas all the time. That's kind of what we see right now with masks. It is what it is. So, quite literally, growing up in Colorado and coming from the South, where I was originally from, having a Southern mother, but I've always been a vegetarian from age 6 on. So at that point in my life, I was pretty much happy to be out of the South at age 6, to be in Colorado, but had no idea how teased I would be being from the South and having an accent and calling soda pop or pop soda, or not really because I came from a super religious background, I wasn't allowed to listen to secular music till I was about 13 years old. Yeah, so silly. That's future stories. So by the time I was living in Colorado, I came from very strong religious backgrounds. So moving from the South where it's pretty Bible bashing, moving to Colorado where it's pretty open-minded. But in the 90s, and being a 6-year-old little girl, it was an interesting place to live, especially in Denver. So like I said, when we moved to Denver, we only had 2 large boxes that were shipped to us, and everything else was left in Louisiana. We started over completely. Now, my mom was I think she was 36 or 37 years old, and I'm 35, so this is an interesting story in comparison to my own mother's situation, which I'm glad I don't have 2 kids in this situation, and I don't want 2 kids in this situation, but I feel for my mom. So, so, and I will skip around because I'm sure it'll be interesting enough to tell it the way that I can tell it the best I can. The early memories I have of Colorado were truly and honestly, it was a very bustling place compared to Louisiana. Louisiana was very slow, and there's a fragrance all the time. And in Colorado, it's pretty much like airy and hard. People are difficult sometimes, but they're in their own world. It's very much a mild sauce compared to California. So when I was growing up in such like sheltered environment, if you'd say, and with a single mom, with a newborn baby, my brother was probably like, I want to say 2 or 3 months old. He was very, very, very young when we moved here. I know she was still breastfeeding. So for Colorado to be the spot to be a single mom, you have to have like cojones. And from what I understand and what I remember my mom saying, she got a job working at a law firm within the second day she was in Colorado. So she just had a good hustle to get a new job. So having security as a single mom, I do feel like there was a lot more outreach the entire time. And even from my own personal experience, it's a little bit different than any place else I've ever lived. And I will talk about that. I'm sure this will be in parts, but it's worth it. It's worth it. So as I said, Denver was my open eyes to Colorado. And from what I remember, because I'll add parts of this story to the other Louisiana version. From what I remember, at 6, my cousin Tammy, who can witness, and I'm sure it would be a great interview, but she could witness to driving me and her and a few of our items from the home that we left in Louisiana through a very nasty divorce and abusive situation all around. So in my mom's vehicle, my cousin Tammy took our car, my mom's car, drove the car from Louisiana to Colorado, delivered the car to help out as a single mom for my mom with us, me and my brother. So Colorado, she had an apartment, she had a job, she had family, she had everything she needed in 2 boxes. When we got there, which I was in a separate car, so many stories to talk about that. The flat tire, I'll talk about it in another video. Whew. But when my cousin Tammy and I finally got to Colorado, my mom had been on an airplane and I believe a train as well, I think she took a train actually to move, but an airplane to actually check out Colorado. So she went before and like overnight got rid of everything in our house in a very nasty divorce. So and I'm sorry backstory, but it's necessary. So while we moved to Colorado, the experience of Colorado was like such a refreshing feeling. Like stagnantness of Louisiana and the fear in the small area. You could find anybody anywhere. You pretty much could go in circles and find people very easily. And my father was in like a total nightmare moment of chasing my mother through the city and stealing me out of the vehicle. So, Colorado was nice finally to be a 6-year-old little girl, not worried that your father's going to rip you out of the car at a stoplight, which was a very real thing for me, a little girl. So, sad, don't feel sad for me. I'm good. We're all good on that. But the situations that I was experiencing in Colorado were more like, holy moly, there's culture. See, in Louisiana, it really was, black and white. I didn't see a lot of Hispanic. I didn't see a lot of Asian. I didn't see a lot of different cultures. And in Denver, it was very unique to me. And I thought it was really interesting and awesome that I got such a new, refreshing taste of different people. And I love that at my early age. Now, food, Hispanic food as well, was really something you could get really nice in Denver growing up. But I was a vegetarian, so it was nice though. They were catering. It was different. It's just such a different thing. Now, when Denver was bustling for a good 5 years, I'd say, it went from when we moved there till when we moved away, a ghetto. It was really nice when we moved there, but then it turned really bad midway. Mostly, and this is such a conundrum, but mostly because by the mid-90s, a lot of Californians were moving to central capital Denver. And unfortunately, so did the gang, so did the homeless. So it was just a very bad concentration of new problems that I don't believe the homeless were at all the problem. I believe the outreach for Denver didn't have the right resources to help anybody. So then there became drug problems, carjackings and kidnappings and murders and all of the fun things that come with crime. So from my side of the spectrum, and from me growing up in Louisiana, I remember people throwing dirt on your windshield and trying to carjack you all the time. You'd see it in front of you happening, and you're like, okay, go around the car. It was very normal from the early 90s. But then moving to Colorado from the early 90s, I didn't see that. Mid-90s definitely was a problem. So we ended up, my family, through a like, I don't want to say too much because it's like too many stories. But Denver started to be so bad that like you'd go into the mall and there were gunshots in the mall, or there were like people getting robbed of 4 stores at once, and you're like a kid trying to eat a burrito at a Taco Bell. It wasn't the best feeling being a kid. Christmas time was nice until it wasn't nice anymore at the mall. And coming from Louisiana, at least for our culture, that was kind of what you did with kids. You brought them to the mall, you let them shop, you let them look at lights. That was really normal. And a lot of places, that's pretty normal. But in Denver in the 90s, you wanted your car jacked, you wanted your wallet stolen while you're there, and your kid stolen too. So by like 94, I believe it was, so like midway, we moved to western Colorado, technically the area I live. Now the town I live in, we didn't move here till later, but there's a reason I'm bringing it straight here. So about 4 years into living in Colorado, not only did we find out my own health problems related to my liver, which there's plenty of videos here on this channel, and I will try to link some below in the description of what I might be talking about. You can check it out yourself. But it was a really weird thing because coming from Louisiana, like I said, the crime was intense. There were streets you just didn't go down. You left it alone. Whatever was happening, you hoped for the best for them. So being a kid, there was this store we used to go to all the time. And I can remember robberies happening at this thing all the time. Like people stealing rugs. It's called Tuesday Mornings. It's kind of like the Big Lots now. I think they took it over or something like that. But Tuesday Mornings was the bomb. Like you could find the coolest stuff, okay? And my mom was like into decorating, very similar to me. But she'd find bargains and we would spend hours at this store. I mean, I can remember playing cards. I wish I still had them. Just beautiful playing cards or just random unique things, similar to like World Market. And this store, their glass was always broken, or there were people's carjacking, coming back into the store saying, So, and that was my childhood. So I was like, lovely to scary. So then we move after my mom finds out she has cancer. No, hold on. Did she find breast cancer? She found out she had liver disease. And so she wanted to have a safe, humble abode. That's what I do remember. And being in a climate that, yes, it would have seasons just like Denver does, but not the slush and not the crazy and definitely not the population. And yeah, you may have to drive like maybe an hour to get anything. And you're not going to know what internet is when you move there because we didn't at the time. In the early 90s, my mom was not like, other than working at the law firm, we didn't have internet. We didn't even care about it. It wasn't important. VH1 and MTV and Nick at Night was important to us, as a family. Music was important, things like that. Cable, technically. Unsolved Mysteries was important to us. So, my mom was very much involved with churches, and many of the churches in our areas were not what you'd find in California and not what you'd find in Louisiana. So they weren't in California trying to take your money or in Louisiana trying to scam you for your money. Guilt you for your money, scam you for your money. I don't know how else to say that. So it was an interesting experience, though, living in the western part of Colorado and actually feeling like, wow, there's like a paradise in the mountains I didn't know existed. But what was on the radio? Yodeling. Country, more yodeling, and religious talk. That was pretty much it. I remember very clearly. So my mom was, smooth jazz. They used to have a smooth jazz station through the mountains. That's the thing. You live in the mountains in the 90s, you didn't have any radio for miles all the time. Cell phones were not something that was popular until for Colorado, for the mountain cities, to 1996, 1999, let's say that, 1999, you could solidly say everybody had a damn cell phone. Kids were starting to get cell phones. I got mine when I was 13, and that was 2001, I think. Hold on. Would it be? Or 2000, something like that? Anyway, long story short, I feel like technology was not the speed. That's the one thing I remember growing up in Colorado. And, I want to say I had a mom who definitely was fine with scraping the damn window. I'm so a wimp at all of that stuff that goes with Colorado. Deer, that's a thing. She didn't get as scared as I do. I mean, I see a turkey, I'm okay. I won't hit the damn turkey, but wild animals, jeez. So growing up in this area, my mom had night blindness. So if we were trying to go get something and it ended up being a snowy night and there was no lights and you're on a frontage road, because that's what you got. You got north and south. Or east and west, east and west on I-70, and once you get to Glenwood Springs, which is on the crescent, right, going into Crescent, Carbondale and Aspen. Once you're in those spots, that's mountains, okay, and lots of snow. And we used to get a lot of our groceries and things like that 45 minutes away. Pretty much at the mall was the cool spot. It was Target and Marshall's. And that was truly real. And honestly, so I have such a perspective living from Louisiana, moving to California. Oh my God, spending 9 years in California and then coming back to this spot into Colorado. It is funny. And now to be in the pandemic where I remember, I learned how to drive on a farm in the middle of the freaking country out here in the mountains, on a farm, in a minivan, a purple one. So, but we used to race cars on this strip. It would be 12-year-old, and they didn't care. Nobody cared. You want some tequila too? It's insane. Desert parties. That's some of the best memories I have. Some of the most pleasant experiences when I was a teenager or a preteen was definitely in these areas, because I don't think I could get that anywhere else. I really don't think I could have gotten it in California if we had merged that way sooner. And Louisiana, I just think it would have been a lot of fucking alcohol. Honestly. And who knows what else. But here, I did move away from the very, very small town where you don't know what they're going to do. Because the sad part is, a lot of people that I went to middle school with, or elementary school, it's I think I got a hold of one who was actually Denver. Thank you, Facebook. But most people didn't stay in the area. They really got into drugs, which is sad. That whole, and I think it happens most places if you're trapped. It's and it isn't heroin, it's meth. It's pills, it's drinking, it's stupid. Driving a car off a cliff, driving into another lane. A lot of people, just drinking yourself stupid and mixing drugs. It's very terrible. So what do I see now? And I left Colorado, moved to different cities because we moved from all over the Western Slope, basically. I went to every middle school you could say down the canyon. So I can tell you what damn schools were better than others. But I'll tell you, I've never been to a better state that had teachers that were compassionate enough that would literally take you home and take care of you if your mother was in the hospital. Or make sure you had a ride home. The kind of rapport that I got with teachers in this state is nothing compared to anywhere else. And I think that's probably what the biggest pulling when I found out I was pregnant to move to the state really, really was strong. Now, I say that there was no internet and there wasn't much. Well, by the 96 on, there was different types Netscape and things like that. I'm probably saying this wrong, but what is it called? Net browser. I know AOL was definitely our best friend. Definitely in this household. I still have the drives, the freaking disk drives. I found them, floppies. Put some AOL up in this 2020s. Holy moly. And I'm talking over 20 years ago, people, that honestly, the situations that I saw in the 90s living out here were more pure. You had friends that would have I still have them, a literal mixtape would be this is Tupac. You gotta listen to this. So it was really a different kind of time when you didn't have the internet so resourcefully, where you could connect to someone in a place you didn't really understand or know, or music to connect with. Like I said, we weren't streaming anything other than I literally had a VHS of No Doubt, Alanis Morissette, I think maybe Nirvana or something like that. I don't remember. I think it was Nirvana. But this was a compilation of concerts that had happened on MTV what was it freaking called? Spring Break Marathon. So they're live performances. I would watch this shit because you didn't have anything to listen to. And that's what you did. You listened to CDs. And when I was a child in this town, we would we'd have beautiful grass because it's a very recently developed area. It's 85. They literally started building communities. It's very recently. And some of these are even newer, just started breaking ground this last week. No exaggeration. It's such a rapidly growing community. And we would lay beach towels down and look at the freaking stars and wait until it got cold to bring blankets outside. And I can remember being a child, and in Colorado, you would get sprinkles and you would get snow outside. You put some sprinkles in there and you put some sugar syrup strawberry or chocolate, whatever you felt like, and make fake ice cream snowballs. And yeah, as children, we didn't deal with COVID, so we weren't dealing with the germs we are now these days. My son was begging to go to the park, and we have a literal slide in the front of my house because we have a full playground in my house, by my house, in my house. It's mine, and nobody else can be on it. It's in our damn fence. It's our playground. And he wants to go to a real playground. Why? Because he wants to be like the normal kids that he remembers. It's crazy. Okay, so, and I can feel for it. There's so much that's new that was just put up like last year. New, we have like brand new middle school. Our town is rapidly booming constantly, okay? Since the pandemic, so let's just fast forward a little bit. It's so weird to see from like 96 versus 2020s, okay? I left Colorado. I moved away from Colorado, moved to California with my mother and my little brother in 2001. Did not move back to Colorado until 2015. 15 years later, moved back to Colorado. 5 years later, after I've lived here, own a house now here, have a child here who's birthed in this state. I buried a dog in this state. I've been through a very hard breakup in this state, so I found love in this state more than once. And childhood definitely experiences in this town. So now to see it full circle 5 years from the time I moved here. None of the houses were for sale. None of the land was being broken for new houses to be developed. They were really holding back on it. It was mostly rentals. It was just totally different, rapid, cheap ass to live here. Okay. The outreach wasn't like, I mean, if you were a single mom, you could get help, but it wasn't like driving by like in hurricanes in Louisiana and dropping off water. Here it's like, oh, you need toilet paper, we're going to drop it off just because somebody gives a crap. I left diapers on my fence the other day because somebody in town needed them, and I found some brand new. Here you go. And we don't really worry that much about people. Yeah, there are carjackings and things like that, but not really up on my hill. And the rangers will shoot to kill. And they'll follow you home if you were freaking going 5 miles over the speed limit. So you don't speed too often. You know. But like I'm saying, this town, when my mother was here in 1995, I think is when we bought our house and moved to this town. I want to say. I think it was maybe 96. Let's just say 95, okay. The police would have put my mom in jail if they saw her smoking weed because she needed to stop her cancer. They were not helpful. They were not helping people, okay, in 96. California was just barely getting there themselves. Now, cut to, I'm a parent. I'm pregnant. My doctors are so supportive and understand the entire journey I'm going to be on. And they understand that I'm also documenting it, a lot of it. They experience the whole thing with me, prepare to possibly me have problems. Doctors are so happy that I could be transparent when it comes to after I had my son and using cannabis again, how it was helpful. They were encouraging to do certain things. That's such a reality check. 20 years later. 2001 is when I left Colorado. 2020. I'm smoking freely where I need to. And the doctors are encouraging it. And I've got a community behind me. And I own a house here. And it's so freaking weird. In Colorado, 5 years ago, Nazi heaven. Still is a little bit. But amazingly, some people are actually intelligent enough to understand, like, community is what keeps people strong. When you live in a place where it's harsh, weathers, time, money, situations, fires. We had a fire going for like 5 freaking months. I think it was 5. Let's say 3. Okay, 3 solid months. There was a canyon fire in like 4 different directions, and none of us could breathe really right. And at the same time, COVID was going on. So how you like, if your throat hurts, situations. And I know a lot of those towns were devastated, and I know a lot of our cities have come together because that's just the kind of people we are. Like, Colorado, the town I live in, did an outreach. I can't share the content, and it was, I'll try to see if there's a hyperlink. I'm just going to tell you the story. Colorado did an outreach for all of the trucks that were trying to move all the new supplies where it needed to go for all the people across the country. So all these semis, these truckers that were dying for food for themselves, so they had to keep going. But our town did is basically set them up to be supplemented for a few weeks to roll back through this way. If they did, or if not, they were good to go. And to tell their friends, come on through, let us know, we could feed you. So we're basically setting up them with sandwiches, foods, grab and go meals, which is amazing. And also a choice of hot meals and things like that, and other combinations of real supplemental help to these people, because it's not like they can stop and make a damn meal if they're on the road, at least at that time. So it was pretty incredible to see nationally. The town I'm in, Parachute, Colorado, basically just changed their damn name. It used to be A Safe Place to Land. It's not that anymore. It's like a place between the Rockies. It's so annoying. Why'd you change the best thing in the world? Whatever. But the town that I'm in, like, literally you could see the house that we owned when I was a child from the mountain side when you went down the canyon. Now there's so many houses and new buildings. It feels good, but it's such a weird thing because, like, I wasn't sure at the beginning of this pandemic, seriously, what was going to happen, because I thought this town is either going to completely come together or burn themselves to the ground. And there's still a chance, but I've seen a lot of amazing things. And, like, in the future, for the next 31 days, as I Vlogmas along, MsChronicChronicles, Vlogmas along, I feel like this is a tongue twister. As I vlog, I hope I can share with you guys a bit more of the town and the things I'm telling you guys about. Because some things will make sense, some things won't. But I have never put any time into videos that might, be fun. My nose itches. So, this is quickly edited. Hopefully I actually get it up. What is actually my opinion, and I'm definitely not done talking about Colorado. I'm sure we'll touch more on this. What's my opinion of Colorado now, after the last 20 years? It's definitely a growing place, but geez, I am definitely with everybody else who believes conspiracy, and there's some strange stuff in the water when it comes to the insanity that's went on with true crime and murders and disappearances, even questionable alien stuff. I will definitely talk about some of that. I have my opinions. I've had my experiences. Things are strange, I'll say that. There's more people that are alienish that I have seen in parts of Colorado than I think I've actually seen aliens. I've seen more on, like, the outskirts of Colorado. Kansas. Utah. I've seen some things. New Mexico, absolutely. Wyoming, absolutely. But that's my own experience. Like, I've seen more real, like, strange-ass people on drugs in some of these places, which it's not cannabis they're smoking. I hate to say it. So, yeah. And in California, if anything, it felt like they were hiding it good. Like, meth obviously is a problem everywhere, but I felt like they were hiding it good. Like, compared to Colorado, sometimes you're like, back up, red alert. And now I was just saying